best, probably likes to swell. Is there really geographic barriers to there's a school, and then plus they got commuter operations too. Can I go? Oh, that'd be I don't know.
Righto, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for that short delay. We were just waiting for a light. There was a freight train up ahead of us. We had to wait for it to clear.
So complimentary drinks all right for you.
So do sit back and enjoy this wonderful trip up through the Taieri Gorge to Pukerangi. This dark grey building out on our right is the Otago Settlers Museum, or Toitu as it's called today. So if you're a visitor to the city, that's not a bad place to spend a couple of hours wandering around on there. It's free entry. You can get in there any old time, 7 days a week. Check out a little bit of history about Dunedin and the province of Otago. About who it was settled and when. Very interesting place actually. This white building coming up on our right is the Chinese Scholars Gardens, and it's completely authentic. It's one of few outside China. In fact, I think it's the only one in the southern hemisphere. Shanghai is our sister city. This garden structure was prefabricated and assembled in Shanghai on a site identical in size and shape to that of Dunedin. It was then dismantled, transported to Dunedin, where it was reconstructed on this site by artisans from Shanghai.
Just before I left there,
They've had a very busy week, the last week, with the Chinese New Year, and they had a wonderful big street parade through the centre of the city, finishing up at the Chinese Gardens, and there was hundreds and hundreds of people took part in that, and they had a wonderful, it was a great night. The atmosphere was brilliant, and they had a lot of activities going on there, so it was a really good night. It's a place that's well worth visiting if you've got a bit of time up your sleeve.
A lot more about the rest of the world than I do where I came from. So it's, I forgot when it was, several years ago or something, I went on a Rocky Mountain Rail tour. That's Rocky Mountaineers is the company. I know the guy that started is very wealthy now. He's built a good business.
These buildings out on our right, that's the maintenance depot for the Taieri Gorge Rail.
I did this rail for part of it and then bus.
They do the servicing of our locomotives. They're currently building some new carriages and refurbishing some of the older ones for our future operations. So things are looking rather positive in at that point.
Because it is very nice. It's real mountains. It's I don't know actually. Some stuff is restricted just depending on the weather, but they have a pretty good operation for marketing and so on, so you can maybe able to pause on that.
This area out to our left is South Dunedin. South Dunedin is a mixture of light industrial, shopping and housing. As you can see, Dunedin's a rather hilly little city. And the South Dunedin area is probably the flattest part of the city area. Very handy to the sea, so it's quite densely populated out towards the coast from here. Lovely Pacific Ocean out there. People do love to live beside the seaside, so that's probably why it's such a popular spot. Some lovely restaurants and cafe bars out in the South Dunedin area. Responsible for the manufacture of quite a few of the carriages that we're travelling in today. The suburb out on our left is the suburb of Caversham, and in the distance the suburbs of St Clair and St Kilda, and a little bit further out you can see the Pacific Ocean over there, not too far away from here. 160 years ago much of this flat land out on our left was peat swamp. It was gradually reclaimed farmland and Chinese market gardens, which were a very important food source for early Dunedin. Later Caversham consisted of mainly workers' cottages and villas dating back to the 1880s. This is the suburb of Abbotsford. Suburb over on the left, on the other side of the motorway, is the suburb of Green Island. Just over the hill is the Pacific Ocean, very handy to the sea. Very sheltered little area tucked at the base of the hill in there, Green Island. Quite a popular little spot. It's all the lovely late afternoon sun.
Casual attitude to make whether you're going to make a flight or not. Would say some of their English pretty good. This
is in the district. These buildings were due for demolition a number of years ago. Fortunately, the New Zealand Historic Places Trust protested, and these buildings are now owned and preserved by the New Zealand Rail Heritage Trust.
That's supposed to
As we depart Wingatui and we switch onto the old Central Otago line, you are welcome to stand out on the open platforms, take in the views, get some photos, a bit of fresh air. More than welcome to wander between the carriages and have a look around. Said the buffet car is situated in carriage queue. They have fresh sandwiches and hot food, some cakes and slices, tea and coffee, perhaps a nice refreshing glass of New Zealand wine, or a nice cold beer to sit back and relax with. Sounds like a jolly fine idea. Just remember, if you are moving between the platforms, be very careful on those grey painted gangway plates, as they do move around quite a lot, so if you could please not stand on them. And please make sure that your children and yourselves, if you're moving between the carriages, have shoes on your feet. Out on our right is the Wingatui Racecourse, the home of the Otago Racing Club. Quite a popular little racetrack for a small area. Probably a dozen or so race meetings a year out here. It's had a lovely day on Boxing Day, just not long gone. A real picnic day for mum and dad and the kids. Lots of activities for the children. They had these miniature horses towing these little sulkies around. They set up a little race area for them, and they thought it was just Christmas. It was great. Their biggest day of the year is Melbourne Cup Day, when they hold a race meeting to coincide with the big race in Australia. They have big screens set up, all the races from Australia are streamed in live, so you can place your bets on the Melbourne Cup or on the local race meeting. Of course, the university students are in town at that time of year, so they come along in their finery, looking very splendid, dressed up for a great day out. And they spend a fair chunk of the day there, but come the end of the day, we send them home looking very second-hand. So we're just starting to roll across the Taieri Plains now. Now the Taieri Plains are not terribly large, about 300 square kilometres. It's very fertile farmland out here on the Taieri Plains. It was once a floodplain, of course. There's a little bit of market gardening out here and a few orchards. And there's a bit of mixed farming, a little bit of sheep and cattle, but the biggest part of the farming out here is dairy farming. Dairy farming is a very big thing on the Taieri. At the moment we're just running alongside a few lifestyle blocks, 5 and 10 acre blocks, but just to the south of that it's all dairy, right away down past the airport, all the way south to the end of the plains. As you can still, the grass is still reasonably green out here on the Taieri Plains, so there's still a bit of growth. That always keeps the farmers happy. Out to our left, you'll see they've been baling some hay. It's all wrapped and ready to put into storage for winter feed. That wrapped hay is called baleage, and it's stacked and stored, ready to feed the animals in the winter. Just south of that, which is a very popular little spot with boaties and fishermen and family groups. Lovely wee picnic area down there. Nice safe swimming lake, and it's very handy, only about 20-minute drive from Dunedin. So we've now left the views of the plains behind us, so this will be the last we see of civilization for a little while now, as we enter the wilderness of the Taieri Gorge. So from now on we'll start to see a lot of bracken, which is a large coarse fern, as well as quite a bit of broom and gorse, which is hardly native to New Zealand, but there's plenty of it up here. A lot of ferns and flaxes and cabbage trees and many other native plants that do grow wild up through the gorge. So we'll shortly be approaching the first of 10 tunnels on this line. Now these tunnels were built over a century ago and have never been widened to cope with the width of the modern rail carriages. So there's very little clearance between the tunnel walls and the sides of the carriages. So please keep your hands and heads and selfie sticks and any other body parts that you want to take home with. As we roll off the viaduct and veer around to the left, it's a good opportunity looking back to get a shot of the viaduct, and if you're in the right spot, occasionally you can get a shot of the tail end of the train coming off the viaduct as well.
Yeah, you can.
rather impressive, isn't it? As I said, we will be coming back this way. I'm pretty sure it'll still be there when we return, so you have another chance on the way back.
A mix and match over wine.
You'll notice a little bit of scarring on the hills on the valley across from the train on the left hand side. Well, that was caused about 6 or 7 weeks ago. We had an awful lot of heavy rain came down and it washed a lot of that rubbish, the rubbish you see on the hillside. That's what's left over after the forestry guys have harvested the trees, and it's called slash. The rubbish, and it does get washed down, and enough of it causes a bit of damage, as you can see, and it gets washed down into the valleys. The valleys fill with water and they flow down onto the river, and a lot of those logs and rubbish end up in the river, and they do get caught up in a few different areas, as we'll shortly see when we go through a little place called Mount Allen. There was a big flood 2 years ago, and there was tons and tons of that stuff washed down the river from a little bit further up, and we got tangled up amongst some trees and bits and pieces. We'll get a bit of a look at that as we go through Mount Allen. Many of the men working on this line were family men, and a lot of them just lived in tents and little old huts that were up here, and there was even a one-room school up here as far back as 1880. Central Otago. So they would pull up on the side of the bridge, a couple of big water tanks, load up with water, roll over the bridge, and there was a passenger halt over here, and they had to stop and pick up and drop off passengers as required, and continue on their way up through the gorge, all the way up to Cromwell. Cromwell's a little township situated about 50 kilometres southeast of Queenstown. So this line did travel for some way. And it was a very busy line with both passenger services and freight were carried up through this area. So the government decided in their wisdom to shut it all down in the early 60s.
It'll be easier when you're going forward, won't it?
Looking very proud and happy.
Photographs of dogs and stuff.
That's Sue. Train, please stay on the right hand side, the station side of the track. Do not cross the tracks or stand on the railway lines at any stage, please. The engine will be running close to the other side, the left hand side of the train, as it disconnects from the front and runs round to reconnect with the rear of the train for our return journey. Also, there's an extreme fire risk up here at the moment, so can I please ask that you do not smoke when you're off the train in the Pukerangi area at all. So please do not smoke when you get off the train. When we're ready to depart, the driver will give a blast on the horn and it's time to get back on.
There's bands up there, yeah. The cruise, maybe. Oh, trail journey, maybe. Gosh. Mom, are you
Well, stretch our legs, take a bit of the terrain.
Yeah.